Hey YouTube, this is Jaden Storm coming at you from Team Shadow Strike, and in this video we're going to be doing another Buddy Fight deck profile, and this is the latest deck that I've built for Buddy Fight. It is, obviously as you can tell by the thumbnail, I am calling this, I call the deck Chaos Fairies, but it's normally referred to as Hero Fairies, Legend World, something like that. I call it Chaos Fairies because if you manage to get the proper setup, it's chaos. So I know it's if you played Yu-Gi-Oh, normally that meant you mixed dark and light monsters together, but I just called it that just because I wanted to call it that, and it's my deck. But very fun to play. And it's definitely annoying once you get your main boss monster set up and you get your drop zone set up and your opponent having to deal with him. So anyway, let's just get straight into this. So this is a Legend World deck profile, and this is our Buddy Monster. Our Buddy Monster is a dual world monster from Hero World and Legend World. He is a size 2 monster with stats of 5,000 power, 2 crits, and 5,000 defense. His call cost is pay 1 gauge, and then his ability is when this card attacks, if there are a total of 4 more different cards with hero or superhero in your drop zone, for this turn, this card gets double attack. And it also has the ability Transform. You can pay 1 gauge and pay 1 life, return 1 item on your field to your hand, and transform into this unit. So you can equip this as your item, give yourself some defense, and get double attack. So it's pretty good. But since you you have to pay 1 life to equip him, when you do it the first time or you choose to use it, choose to do a buddy call with it, it will cancel out. So that's nice. So that is that. So let's get into the deck. First, we play for size 3s. Our main boss unit is Fairy King OBrien. So OBrien is he's a size 3 monster with 9,000 attack power, 2 crits, and 7,000 defense. So amazing stats. His call cost is pay 2 gauge. And then his ability is, if there are a total of 7 or more hero and fairy monsters in your drop zone, nullify all abilities of monsters on your opponent's field, and this ability cannot be nullified. And then he also has the double attack ability. So if your opponent has monsters with Soul Guard, or if they have Move, or anything like that, you can, once you have at least 7 or more hero and fairies in your drop zone, he just says no to them. So. And with 7,000, there's a lot of times where they're going to have to link attack into this thing, so he is a very, very good card. But obviously, you wouldn't want to use him in the early game because your drop zone isn't prepared yet, so the monster that you really want to open with as your starting card, if possible, is we play 4 copies of Valkyrie, Skuld, the Lamenter of the Future. So, Valkyrie, her ability is, first, her call cost is pay 2 gauge, and you put the top card of your deck into this card's soul. She is a size 3 monster with 7,000 power, 3 crits, and 5k defense. And then her skill is, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, look at the top 3 cards from the top of your deck or your opponent's deck. Put them back in any order on the top of your deck. Then draw a card, and you may only use this ability once per turn. And then she also has the Move, and she has Soul Guard. So you can use this to manipulate the top of your opponent's deck. You can use it to look at your deck and control what you draw. So, and then with her ability, I guess I'm going to go into size 0s next and kind of break the order chain here a bit, but it'll make sense. So, for size 0s, we play 4 copies of, crap, give me one. Valkyrie, All-Knowing Alwidiel. Alwadiel's ability, she has 2 skills. The first of which is the cards you cast with Great Spell in their card name can't be nullified, but that's not really important. The ability that we play her for is her second one, which is when this card is discarded from your hand, put the top card of your deck into the gauge and draw a card. So if you use her with Scald, you can discard this, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, take the 2 cards that you want the most and put them on the bottom. So you take. So let me rephrase that. You discard her with Scald, and then use Scald's ability. You're going to get to draw 1 card, and then with this card, you're going to get to draw 1 card and gauge 1. So when you discard her, just take the card that you want the least and put that on the top, because then you're going to gauge that card. You'll draw 1 because of her, and then you'll draw 1 because of Scald. Or you can use it to look at the top of your opponent's deck if you wish, but you use this to gain a pretty decent amount of advantage in the early game. So there's that. Next, we play 2 copies of another Valkyrie, Valkyrie Rhoda, the Caller of Blizzard. She has 2 abilities. First is all heroes on your field other than herself get plus 1,000 power, so that's a thing. And then the other one is when this card is discarded from your hand, you may pay 1 gauge. If you do, destroy a size 2 or less monster on your opponent's field. So you can use her to. Valkyrie is not your only discarding outlet, but you can discard this with her and then destroy a monster on your opponent's field that's size 2 or less. So that's there. And then finally we play 2 copies of Ares, Star Centennial Ares. So Ares, his ability, or her ability, I don't know which, is whenever this card is discarded from your hand, you may pay 1 gauge. If you do, destroy an item or spell on your opponent's field. So, there's that. So, next we have some size 2s. We have, obviously, our 4 copies of our Buddy Monster. Already covered him, so I'm not going to say anything else about him. And next we play 2 copies of Valkyrie Brilliant Brunhilde. She is just a size 2 monster with 5,000 power, 2 crits, and 3k defense. Her call cost is pay 1 gauge, and you put the top card of your deck into her soul, and she has move and soul guard. So she's just kind of there if you don't really if you didn't open with Valkyrie, and she's just a good monster that you can kind of buy yourself a little time with. And then lastly, we play 2 copies of Hazel Emperor Jailer Alking. This little gem was given to us by Executioners because his attributes are Hero, Fairy, and Executioners. So he counts towards our deck, and he's a really good addition to it. He is a size 2 monster with 4,000 power, 2 crits, and 5k defense. His ability is Act. Put the top 3 cards of your deck into the drop zone. If you do, destroy an item or spell on your opponent's field. You can only use this ability once per turn. The reason I don't play more is because I also play the 2 Ares, and they do essentially the same thing. So space is a little tight, so you just kind of have to decide how you want to play it. I can see playing more. I definitely understand why you would play more of this. So if you play more than 2 Jailer, I get it. Or, yeah, Jailer, right? Yeah, Jailer. Next, for regular items, we play 3 copies of Divine Sword Gallatin. Simple weapon with 3,000 power, 2 crits. Its ability is Counter, Act, Calling Voice of Sword. During your attack phase, if you have 4 or more different heroes in your drop zone, you can equip this card from your hand. You may only use Calling Voice of the Sword once per turn, so it's equipment change. So if, say, because keep in mind your Buddy Monster reads, pay 1 gauge and pay 1 life and return up to 1 item on your field to your hand, so you don't have to even have an item equipped. You can go attack with him twice, and then you can bounce this to your hand and to use equipment change and then attack again. So that's why this is in here. So you can basically get 3 attacks off with your items. Next, for our spells, we play 4 copies of Holy Grail. This is just your basic attack nullifier as long as your center's open. We play 3 copies of Illusion of the Void Deity. This is kind of like Dragobond for you Dragon World users like me. It's counter. Choose a size 3 monster on your field for this turn. If that monster would be destroyed, you gain 1 life, and that monster remains on the field. So you can use this to protect your OBrien or your Valkyrie. Next, we play 3 copies of Darkness Ruin. Darkness Rune is a dual world spell from Legend World and Darkness Dragon World. Its cast cost is pay 1 life, and then counter, choose and use one of the following 3. First is put the top 2 cards of your deck into the gauge. Second is put a soul from a card on your opponent's field into his or her drop zone. And the third is destroy a size 1 or less monster on your opponent's field. So you can use this just for a little bit of toolbox options because you have 3 different effects you can use. So that's nice. Next, we play 3 copies of the Light of Guidance. Light of Guidance, its cast cost is discard a card from your hand, so you can use this to discard any of your size 0s. Discard a card from your hand, and then its counter, put the top card of your deck into the gauge, and the next time damage would be dealt to you this turn, it is reduced to 0. So you can use this to stop big attacks. Next, we play 3 copies of Tavis Guard. Tavis Guard is a really, really good spell. It is a cast cost of 1. You get to choose and use one of the following 2, and you may only cast Tavis Guard once per turn. You pay 2 life. If you do, put 2 cards from your drop zone into the soul of a monster on your field. And then the other skill is counter, stand a hero on your field. So you can use this to stand up your OBrien or your Valkyrie for another attack. Or any hero, essentially. So you could use it on your Red Arthur. You could use it on a lot of things. So that's why it's there. Next, we play 2 copies of the Fury of Odin. Fury of Odin is a cast cost of pay 1 gauge and discard a card from your hand. Counter. Destroy all size 1 or less monsters on your opponent's field. So this is here because size 1s are most decks play at least some of them, and you can use this to wipe them out and get another discard outlet for those size 0s. And then last, I played 2 copies of the set spell Hero Base Castle Camelot. I really want to try and find one more copy of this card because I really do like it. Its ability is set, and then during your turn, when a hero monster enters your field, or when you equipped a hero item, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, and then put the top card of your deck into the gauge. This ability activates only once per turn. And then also, when this card is destroyed, you get to put up to 1 hero item or Holy Grail from your drop zone into your hand, and you may only set one of this card at a time. So, really good card. I want to get one more, but it's not really that big of an issue. If you see it, great. If not, it's not the end of the world, but I do want to pick up one more. So that is the spells. And then lastly, we play 3 copies of King's Wave Caliburn Grief. Caliburn Grief is definitely one of the best cards in this deck. It's you may only cast this card if you have 4 or more different heroes in your drop zone. Cast cost is pay 2 gauge, and then counter, destroy all monsters and spells on the field. So if your opponent is starting to build a pretty decent attack formation when they enter their battle phase, you can just cast and destroy all spells and monsters on their field, and you can destroy all monsters and spells that are on the field. So if you have your Castle of Camelot set, it will be destroyed, and you'll get to add back another item or your Holy Grail spell, and all your monsters will die too. But if you happen to have Valkyrie on the field and she still has her Soul Guard, you can just remove that soul and she'll remain. Or if you have Brunhilde on the field, she'll survive if she still has her Soul Guard. Or when you cast this and your size 3 would be destroyed, you can just also use Illusion of the Void Deity to protect your grade 3. And everything else will just go. So there is options for that. Definitely a 3 of in this deck. I think 4 would be overdoing it a little, but I can certainly understand why you'd want to play 4. So anyway, that is my Chaos Fairy deck profile. So a lot of fun to play, especially when you get OBrien set up and your opponent has to find a way to get rid of it without abilities. Just make sure that you are prepared. They're going to do whatever they can to get rid of this, even if it's with like spell cards and things like that. So you need to be prepared. This deck does, it does, I've done my absolute best to make sure it doesn't brick, so it, because if you really don't open up well in this and you're fighting against something that is much easier to get going, it can hurt quite a bit. I do think this deck is kind of like a rogue out there because of Fairy King OBrien, and it stuns so much. This deck you might actually still see at upper level events. It's definitely one of my favorite decks to play, and I love the artwork in Buddy Fight in general, but I love the artwork in these Legend World cards. So anyway, guys, and I'm also hoping, because in the next booster set, Legend World is getting some more support, so I'm kind of hoping we get another size 3 hero, but we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you have any suggestions, please leave them down below. Always like to hear what you guys have to say, or if you have suggestions. If there is another deck profile out there for Buddy Fight or Vanguard that you would like for me to do, please feel free to mention that below as well. So hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you give this video a like, a big thumbs up for me, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.